I'm back.
Llegamos a la parte final de este programa especial dedicado a la película El día después de mañana del año 2004, dirigida por Roland Emmerich, con este documental En el ojo de la tormenta, cómo se filmó esta cinta, que pues vemos que de alguna forma deja la enseñanza y el mensaje de que pues hay que cuidar el planeta lo mejor que se pueda, cada quien contribuyendo con alguna acción para evitar que lo que ya está avanzado con este cambio climático y los efectos que han ocasionado que la naturaleza y el planeta tenga cambios bruscos en su atmósfera, pues bueno, no siga avanzando para que se ponga más difícil la situación para la humanidad. Así que así los vamos a cerrar con este último bloque de detrás de cámaras de esta película, no sin antes agradecerle su compañía a través del canal 14 de Cablecom, el canal 215 en Megacable, el canal 50.1 en señal abierta digital. Gracias por seguirnos en la web en www.radiotelevisiónquerétaro.mx. Gracias también por seguirnos en Facebook, en pantalla 169. Soy Luis Lozada y agradezco al staff, a Eduardo Torres en el switcher, a Eduardo Veloz Ortega en la consola de audio, también a César Campos y en el máster a José Ramírez y a Pedro Vázquez. Los espero pronto en la próxima emisión y como siempre les digo, aquí en pantalla 169 se vive el cine. Hasta luego.
She comes in, right, and it close up of her exactly until he hits the
Whenever you're working with water, it's always difficult and slow and wet and uncomfortable.
I did like a lot of rain in Godzilla, so I'm not afraid of rain. I mean, it's like kind of nearly comes natural to me.
Yeah, the water was pretty warm. It wasn't that bad. But they had these giant fans blowing, so when the rain fell, the rain was like pretty cold. It was pretty freezing.
It was just like mad cold. I mean, just wet all day for like several weeks.
You know, the rain was coming down in like the size of this tangerine I had. The raindrops were huge, man. It was just, they're beating down, and it was the worst rainstorm I'd ever been in my life.
That was actually the best part of the movie. It took us like a week or two to shoot, and we were wearing these wetsuits under our clothes, so we were like, but it was so hot and sticky underneath, and we were like running through the water, and we were tripping and falling.
There were like 400 extras that day or something like that, and apparently some of them had some bladder problems, so after a couple of weeks, you know, it wasn't too pretty in there, but it was wet. It was very wet.
I feel like a rat. I'm so bedraggled.
I know, when I see you after the show's over, I don't recognize you.
You only have to remember one thing. Before you say this, break the window. You have to come over and try the door.
Oh yeah, that was I forgot.
And that brings you over, and that changes your eye life.
In the case of the storm tide sequence, we had rain bars going all the way down the stage. Well, of course I want the practical rain hitting the people in the cars, but I was running around, you know, turn off that rain bar and that one, and chasing them so that there was still some blue screen left.
It's also like amazing these days that you can pull keys of a blue screen, even you have like rain and wind, and it hardly shows up on screen that there is blue screen there. And in a way, you know, they can still pull, I mean, they have to do a lot of rotoscoping, like hands painted frame by frame. I mean, it was like a big headache, but when you like kind of have to do it, you have to find a solution, and then they find it.
And here we go, let's try rehearsal, and action. A little high up in your arms. Okay, now you go.
Kim, don't kind of push them too much to the left. That will look not right.
Also, what like kind of was really, it was like actually Uli's idea. He said like, let's shoot the whole scene with the super technocrane.
The technocrane gives a tremendous freedom. I mean, it's a great thing. We can be very fast.
Oh, it's an amazing piece of equipment. The technocrane allows you not to have to stand in the water and get wet all the time. At least it allowed us not to have to stand in the water and get wet all the time. But it moves so quickly. You're not moving the camera from place to place. There's a platform, and the arm goes out 40, 50 feet, I don't know exactly what it is, but you can sort of take it and put it anywhere, so it saves an enormous amount of time.
You can put the camera wherever you like. You know, you can very quickly change your setup.
And we could like reach everywhere with the Technocrane and do all kinds of moves, like a Steadicam in a way.
You can do camera moves that are very complex, and you can do them easily, and you can change them.
Actually, we had two. But like the first movie, I had two Technocranes. Normally, you have to beg for one. I had two.
And we basically had the camera on the stage always on the Technocrane.
They save you enormous amounts of money, and there's always the same stupid discussion about it. And I say that save us money. It's the same thing like kind of Steadicam saves you money.
We can't evacuate half the country because one scientist thinks the climate is shifting.
Every minute we delay is costing lives.
I think, you know what, like we should do? Jeffrey and I should like kind of figure it out, yeah? And then let everybody know what the decision is. You know, I mean, no, it's like, it's like kind of, I tell you, it's like kind of, this is like kind of really fucked up. We have to kind of solve this now.
Yes, we're going to the Oval Office.
But he wants it all one day now.
Well, that doesn't need to be the same day.
That's what that does need to be the same
Well,
day.
the frozen boat?
This has to all be day.
Or they need to take the Jack scene.
Guys, let me just say one thing. Mind if I interrupt for a second? It's important. Okay, just to keep in mind. Kim made a really good point, which is this.
What you want?
It's the linkage between Becker and the Wall Street crash that Roland would like to undo.
There's like kind of two things, you know, which we like have to undo. Like kind of that, like kind of Jack after he learns the bad news, and then at the end of that scene, you know, like kind of has to be more. There's a lot of work we have to do.
One of the other changes in the movie was we had always had an idea that at the end of the movie, the president would say something to the American people and to the world about how, you know, the world has changed and about how, you know, we're going to live more responsibly and take care of our environment, sort of a little message thing. And about halfway through the shoot, Roland and I actually were down in Washington. We had flown down there for the day because he was shooting something, and we were talking about this final speech and whether it was going to work and this or that. And I said to him, you know, it'd be really cool is if we had killed the president and the vice president was the president and he gave the speech. And Roland said, yeah, that's a good idea. I was like, yeah, it's too bad, you know, it's too late to do that, sort of. And Roland said, no, it's not too late. And I said, what are you talking about? We're shooting that scene next week. And he's like, well, write it tonight. And we ended up killing the president as a result. And I literally wrote the scene that night and we showed it to Mark. And I think we shot it, you know, like 2 days later.
Action.
We can't evacuate half the country because one scientist thinks the climate is shifting.
Every minute we delay is costing lives.
Well, what about the other half of the country?
I don't even know exactly how it came about, but what we realized is we should always have done that because the vice president is sort of the antagonist for Dennis Quaid's character in the first scene of the movie, and by having him, you know, ascend to the presidency by the end of the movie and sort of see the error of his ways, it allows for this great character arc that we didn't have before. So by having that happen, it also felt like it held together much better.
Bullshit. Paul's a loose cannon. It's easy for him to suggest this plan. He's safely here in Washington.
We then went to Mark Gordon, who, you know, to run it by him, sort of he's the other person that has to sign off on it. And Mark said, this is a good idea. I like this idea. And, you know, let's do it. And then, you know, kind of Roland and I looked at each other, well, who's going to tell Perry? And we both looked at Mark. We said, you know, Mark's the producer. It's his job. And Mark, you know, Perry was great about it. And, you know, I think he understood that it's about more than any one actor's part. It's about the overall structure of the movie and what works best for the movie. And Mark explained that to him, and he was just a trooper and terrific. And the other scene was, you know, it also made the character of the president more heroic because he stays behind and does something really brave to try and make sure everybody gets out. And it's, you know, he's the last man out the door and he doesn't make it.
Very good, Francois.
Very good. Okay, now we kind of do the
Right foot in, take the right
Next
foot out.
setup, folks.
General.
Moving on.
General.
All right, everybody, quiet down. When was the last time anyone got a signal on the cell phone?
The security guard line is gone. That first one, where are they all going? The line that was JD's is now the security guards because you're joining them up top there.
They're getting script
changes.
They're getting them right now.
On page 87.
This is what happens with
That
big
radio
movies.
still not
Script
working?
changes every day.
Okay, let's read through it.
Starting from 141, going right into 143, and action.
Yo, people, there's people out there.
This was our biggest indoor set, was the reading room. Greatly built by Barry and decorated by Victor. I mean, I've worked with both of them, you know, like kind of many times already, so they're like kind of a good team also together. And they built this thing, and I loved that set. I mean, it was like my favorite set of all of them. And you see it in different phases, you know. First you see it like kind of in Campbell, the cop, you know, like kind of discovers there are like kind of people out there, and they're like leaving New York, and the big discussion starts, should they leave too?
Hey, there's people out there.
And later what we have to do is like kind of snow it in. We had to build a huge snowdrift in there. It was also like amazing. You have to first build the drift and then foam it, and then, you know, and then there's only so much layer of snow, otherwise it will not work.
Everybody listen up. Now, when was the last time somebody got a signal on their cell phone?
I got through to my cousin in Memphis about an hour ago.
Roland, the German, he's so funny. He's like the sweetest, probably the sweetest guy I've ever worked with.
He's just awesome. I mean, that's one of the reasons when they sent me the script and they said Roland Emmerich was in it, I was like, I want to do it, I want to do it, I want to do it. Everything that he does is just so amazingly put together, and he's so much fun. He's such a cool guy.
I mean, he's not what you would say one of those very, you know, on-edge type directors where it's like, you know, frantic on the set. You know, it's very calm, which is one thing I really enjoy.
Every time you turn around, he has a smile on his face. He's so even keel. He's created the most comforting set. I mean, very calm and no drama, and that's such a pleasure, because that's the way it should be.
I know he probably thinks I'm crazy. I'm serious. I'm next to him constantly. You know, whenever I'm on the set, I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna go stand over here, and periodically I'll ask him questions. Okay, so Roland, this shot you're doing right here, so like, you know, what made you come up with this idea? And he just, you know, broke some things down for me. I don't know, it would cost somebody else maybe $50,000 a year to get what I'm getting paid for.
People have abandoned their cars, grabbed their belongings, and they are wading across the river illegally into Mexico.
The border crossing was an idea that I think Roland had from the very beginning. That was before I even came on. In his original script, there were a few things that Roland always had, and the border crossing and the ship down Fifth Avenue, and the wolves and the Tokyo hailstorm and the tornadoes in LA were ideas that he'd always had. And so for me, it was about like building around some of those pieces. And the border crossing was just it's just such a magnificent and fun idea to have that happen.
There'll be people coming up and asking you questions or whatever, okay?
Are we going to actually say so, or just...
What's that?
They're not going to be any voice.
No. And at this point, you guys don't really know what to do, and you're not stopping anybody. Okay. And people are going to come up and ask you questions and then continue on across the river. Okay. All right? So I'll get you out in a couple minutes.
All right, then.
Background, go, guys. And family, go.
I think some people worked for this for months, or half a year or so. Because it's very hard to kind of convince the American government to give you their border, and to the Mexicans too. I mean, this was like kind of two countries, you know?
A massive bottleneck here at the U.S.-Mexico checkpoint, a traffic jam that extends some 10, possibly 15 miles. Now, what's unfolding behind me is a scene of desperation and frustration.
We had like, I don't know, Mexican extras which go to the middle of the river, and American extras could also go to the middle of the river. And there was like somewhat a gray zone where we like could overlap. And it worked beautifully, I mean, but like it was very, very complicated.
Guy. Right.
We supposed to pretend it's 20 degrees out here? More like 200.
No one should get hurt, okay? This is pure miming, okay? So no one strike anybody. Let's just make it fun and real, okay? Here we go, rehearsing. Guys, you ready? And action.
Borders closed.